So now we're up to the point now where we can actually UV our character. The feet aren't on there, yes, but the feet are going to come from when we actually have the updated clothed version of the character to work from. But just for now, we're going to UV this. Now, the great thing about characters is they are the hardest thing to make, or one of the hardest things to make, but they are one of the easiest things to UV. UVing characters is actually really, really simple. The hard part of UVing a character comes from generally one technical thing is where do you break up the UVs? Do you break everything up into individual parts of the body, like arms, torso, legs, feet, head, whatever? Or do you try and combine everything into the same texture sheet, or all these different things? Now, all I'm going to do at first is just unwrap the character. I'm not going to lay it into UV sheets, but what I'm going to do is unwrap it and just have them sat inside their own little portion of the UV sheet so that we can come in there and decide how we're going to do stuff later on. But I've just made sure that my scene is super, super empty. Oh, that's the wrong one. My scene is super, super empty. So made sure that I have no history, that I have no transform, that the whole scene itself is at a good swipe from the history. And I just renamed my actual object body. Now, if I open up my UV editor, I'm in UV editing now. I open up my UV toolkit, open up my UV editor. My UVs were I kind of had a little play before because I wanted to do some UVing. I've destroyed my UVs though. Your UVs will look like a complete mess. They'll look like a cluster. That's fine because the first thing we're going to do to start off this, regardless of what's happening here, is we're going to grab the character. We're going to do a planar projection from the front. We're basically going to take a photograph from the front, planar projection style. So, like that. Now, one thing we've got to do is just make sure that our planar projection is set up correctly. So I'm going to go to UV, come down to planar, and just go to the option box and just make sure that I'm looking down the Z-axis because that's the direction in which we should be modeling, and just making sure I've got keep image width height ratio turned on. Because then if I've got that turned off, our character looks like this. We're stretching our character, which you don't really want to do. So I'm going to keep that on like that. So first of all, I do a planar projection from the front. We get this, which is cool. Now what I want to do is actually cut this up into individual chunks. I want to have my arms as separate objects, and then my hands are separate objects, my legs are separate objects, my head is a separate object. And then that's like stage one. I'm going to cut everything up into individual chunks. Again, what I'm thinking of, I think I said this in class once, I'm going to look at the way like a hoodie or a t-shirt is made. When you look at that, your arms are sewn on. The little elasticy bit at the wrist can represent the hand, that's sewn on. The hood representing the head is sewn on. So what I'm going to do is literally just start to sew some stuff off. So I can either grab stuff inside my UV editor, or I can grab stuff inside my 3D world, doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to grab stuff inside my 3D world. Another thing to think about as well is where are we going to cut? Where are we actually going to cut? Now I'm going to cut my arms off first. And I'm not going to cut around here or anything like that. I'm going to cut where the arms where I first put the arms onto the body. So around the outside of that edge flow. So around here on both sides. Might as well do both sides at the same time. Again, I could probably have object X symmetry turned on for this. So I'm going to cut them off here. You could sort of cut them off here, I guess. You'd have the loop left behind, but I want to come off here because I'm thinking that's where the sleeves should be cut off anyway. And I'm just going to cut. So then I can move my arms up to move them away for now. And then I'm going to cut my legs off here. Like that. Same thing. Cut them off. Let's move those to the side. Then I'm going to cut my head off. And my head I'm going to cut off at the base of the neck. Now, because I've got this little bit of a thing here, I could cut off here, which will leave me a little bit of a tab. But in fact, I think I'm going to cut off here. And I've got my head. And I'm going to cut my hands off. So I'm going to cut my hands off at the wrist there. I'm going to go to the very, very bottom where I've got this little loop going around. Cut them off there, and then that'll do my hands like that. So I've broken everything up into individual chunks, which is cool. Dead easy to do. I'm going to do a save. Let's make sure that's going to the right place after all those crashes. Cheers. I'm going to turn off object X symmetry for now because I just got to be a bit careful at this point. It's not a hard thing to do at all, but I just don't want to accidentally cut anything I don't want to cut. So let's start off with my legs. Let's start off with the easy ones first. So the legs are going to be the easiest to just cut on the inside seam there, because it means that I'm not going to have any seams on the outside, so I can just texture all I want on the outside here. And the only thing I'm going to worry about is on the inside here. So again, I'm thinking like pants. Where's the inseam? It's the inside of the leg. So going from the center, so where's the center of the body there? Go down the center of the leg, all the way down to the bottom, on both sides, like that. Grab both of these. And then I'm going to unfold these with the unfold unfold 3D. Just make sure that it can go to modify, unfold option box, and just make sure that I've got unfold 3D selected. Click apply, and boom, my legs are done. Just have a look at those checkerboard. Beautiful. That's my legs unfolded. I can just move them off to the side for now. Again, I'm not going to start laying anything in. And the only thing I probably will do is just, if they get unfolded and kind of like go a bit cockeyed, I'll just kind of straighten them up a little bit. They're done. Let's do my arms. My arms are exactly the same thing. All I'm going to do is look for the inside here. So again, if you look at t-shirts or hoodies, you'll have a seam on the inside of the arm there. On the other side, so I'll do that. Going all the way down to the hand. Cut that. Then in my armpit to the side, do the same thing. Cut that. And then I can unfold those. Beautiful. Bring them over to the side. Just put in place. Again, these are early stages, so I don't have to get anything laid out. So what have I got left? I've got my torso, my hands, and my head. So my torso is what I'm going to do next. There's two ways you can go about this. We can either follow the same kind of principle we're working here and cut down the outsides here, so that we're going to have a front and a back to unfold, which is perfectly fine, because you can just flip this one, so it's blue, and then unfold them both. Boom, that's perfectly good. You can do that, absolutely. The other way you can do this is by cutting down the back of the spine. But this time you'll have to go all the way around to the bottom, and just make sure you cut in the bottom here, which I appear to have pre-cut already, but you make sure you cut in the bottom here. Because that way when you unfold it, you get this. Now the benefit of this is that you will have no seams on the corner of your body here. You have no seams on the outside of your body. You'll have one seam at the back where your spine is. And it's a single UV rather than two UVs. So the two things you can do. So either cut down the sides into two UVs, so you got a front and a back, or cut down the spine. Completely up to you. Move that up. I'm going to leave mine, I think, with the spine cut. I like that. Let's do the head, because the hands are a bit more of a faff, but the head is pretty simple. Now we have to cut some bits out of the head, because there is a few things going on here which are going to change our UVs a little bit. And number one, I'm going to cut the inside of the mouth away. So I'm going to come inside. I'm going to ignore this, the very outside edge here. I'm going to ignore this one. I'm going to come to the inside edge. That edge we added at the end, and then kind of shrunk it in just to give our lips a bit of curve. I'm just going to cut that. And then if I move my head, I should have my mouth bag left behind. Now, unless you're doing some sort of like, you know, troll character, dinosaur character, monster character, where the inside of the mouth is going to be very detailed, you can just unfold this as it is. You could cut it into two halves. So find the halfway point on both sides, cut, cut, and then unfold these two pieces as individual bits. You could do that. Again, it's two different weird little bits, but however you want to do that. This isn't, I'm not really too fussed about this bit, because again, this is going to be a very generic shape. And a very generic texture. I'm not going to texture this too much. Now, because why am I doing that? It's because when I unfold the head, because everything wants to lay flat, the inside of the mouth is going to also want to lay flat, which is going to then distort the surrounding areas of the face. which you can absolutely have an experiment with, like do everything except cutting out the mouth and then do an unfold, see what happens. But I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to cut off the back of the eyes. Not using the outside edge here, using that slightly inside one. Again, same thing. You know, this is going to change my shape of my eye. You could leave them in, unless you push these really, really far back. You could leave them in, but it's just going to change the shape of it around my eyes, and I don't really want that too much. So I'm going to take mine out. Move them off to the side a bit. And now with that, my ears are still attached. So I'm going to see what it looks like with my ears attached when I unfold it, and then I'm going to judge what I'm going to do. I'm also my neck as well. My neck is still going to be attached. So I'm going to unfold and see what happens, and then judge, decide what I'm going to do. So what I'm not going to do is just unfold my head like this, because I get this, which is unusual, because all my face is like, there's my face inside, which is not good. So what I'm going to do instead is cut from the back of the neck, basically following this edge that I've already added in. I'm going to cut up round to where the hairline is going to be, so about there. I'm going to cut up to about there, because then that'll allow all the back part of my head to unfold and hopefully not touch my face too much. Okay, so that's my face. It's not looking super, super great. If I scale this up, I should see the checkerboard better. So it's not the best one we could have had. It's not terrible. It's not the worst we've ever. It's not the worst we could have. It's not the best we could have. What's happening here is I've still got my neck attached. So all this very, very small part of my body here is wanting to unfold, but then it's attached to a very big part of the body here, the head. So that's where we get this like pinching, which is pinching in here. So this is why, you always want to check stuff. You always want to have a think about stuff. What I'm going to do is cut my neck off at a fairly high point. I'm going to cut about here, just underneath what would be the throat, I guess. Right there. So if I cut this off, because also I'm cutting here because generally, this is a more hidden area of the face. If I put a seam across like the front of the neck there, that right in the middle of the neck, it's going to be more obvious than if I had an edge here selected. This is a little bit more hidden, especially if I'm maybe doing shots where I'm going to be looking down at the character like this. You're never going to see that. And it's in a darker area, which is always a little bit easy to get seamless textures in there. So I'm going to cut that, cut it off. And then because I've still got that seam there, I can unfold my neck. Perfect. That's all good. Now for my head, I'm going to have a check what happens. So I unfold. That's looking better. It's looking a bit better there. So I'm looking at the checkerboard. It's looking better, but you can see there we're still getting compression down at the base of the neck, especially around the front. And that's pushing and pulling our face here apart. So what I'm actually going to do is cut from the middle of the neck here to the front of the chin, not up to anything very visible. I'm just going to cut to the front of the chin. What that's going to do is just going to allow my face around my bottom two, like jowly, cheeky sections to unfold. Thus allowing, we're pushing this area in the bottom here wants to unfold, so it's pushing up into this part of the face, distorting this area. But if I cut that and unfold it, these two sections are allowed to unfold, and it allows my front face to relax a bit more, thus adding less distortion to the face. What this will do, though, is create an area which I've got to be a bit careful about. This area down here is prone to obvious seams if I'm not careful. So I've just got to be careful about my texture when we come to that. But that's my head done. Oh, move that over, move my neck over. Now just my hands. Now my hands, fairly easy to do. There's a couple of different ways you can do this as well. One way you could do this is by having basically everything connected to each other. The fingers connected to the actual palm, but you cut down the middle of the hand. So if I have made my hand correctly, which I haven't. So I can go from here to here. So basically what I'm going to do, if I just, oops, there we go. Make my window bigger. There you go. I can wrap around the hand there. Again, following on that seam. Wrap around and then basically cut across all my fingers, round, to about here. Now this isn't going to carry because of how our thumb was brought out of our hand. What I can do is just bring an edge down to the middle of the thumb. Then bring that around. And then I can probably just bring that there. Cut that, and then you'll have two hand parts that you can go boom, and then boom. And you can text that. Now, this is perfectly fine. You're obviously going to be working on the seams going around the palm, especially with a little bit of a janky one there. You're going to have to deal with those seams, but you can see that it's actually following on from the pass seam coming in from the arm, round, like that. The shape is very splayed, but it is very easy to get to places. And it's only well, it'll be 4 UVs if you do both sides at the same time. You'll have 4 UVs, and that's perfectly cool. You'll see this a lot in stuff. Another way you can do things is a little more involved. Is this? You cut the fingers off first. So let's cut the fingers off. As well as the thumb. So cut around the base of the thumb. Cut those off. And then what we should have left is just this bit of our palm. Now, one thing to think about is, again, with texturing and with UVing, especially with characters, you have to find areas where the seam's going to be the smallest or it's going to be out of the way. That's why we put the cut on the inside of the leg and the armpit, because you generally don't see those areas as much. Now, with the hand here, we've got in between the thumb and the finger area here, which is quite small, and then you've got the broad open part of the palm here. Now, I'm probably going to go over this in class because I like making this as a point, but as you're talking, and if you're very gestural with your hands, you don't point the inside of you don't generally point this part of the hand towards people. You tend to point this part of the hand towards people. So what we're going to do is leave this bit alone and just put a seam here. Basically where you can see here where I've got this separation between red and blue. So basically if I'm following down the middle of the finger, cut there, and then I can unfold that. Oh, no I can't, because I've got to follow that around to the wrist as well. Sorry, there we go. There we go. So yeah, I follow down from the wrist and the in-between of the finger and the thumb, and that folds out. Now that means it's not two textures, it's going to be a lot more textures, but they're all going to be a lot more equal. You'll see in a minute. There's going to be a lot less distortion. There's going to be a lot more to kind of deal with in UV kind of terms. So what I'm going to do now is cut each one of these fingers apart from each other in between the fingers. So grab all in between fingers, cut that, so they all should now be separate, which they are. And then I could cut them all down the middle, splitting them all into 2 pieces, but then that's going to basically double the amount of UVs. Instead, what I'm going to do is cut down the middle of the finger, well, the pad of the finger, there. And then I'm going to make a little bit of I'm going to cut these edges. So I'm not going to cut this top edge here where the fingernail is going to be. I'm not going to cut that bit, but I'm going to cut all the side bits running around. So I'll do that on all of them. Just show you how quick it's going to be. So cut all those. I can also do the thumb. What am I doing? I can also do the thumb. And if I just unfold all of them, I get these. So these are very non-distorted UVs. Not a whole lot of distortion on there. They're nice and open because the 2 top faces here are going to be the top of the finger, Neither side of that, these two. So this is the top of the finger, including like the point of the finger. This is the side of the finger, and then this is the underside of the finger here. So it's a lot easier to texture. Yes, there are a few more UVs to deal with. It's completely up to you how you do it. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way of doing these. From those two ways I showed you, there's no right or wrong way. It entirely depends on how you want to go about it. I tend to like doing this for some reason. I've always kind of fallen into doing my hands like this. But if you want to do the thing where you basically cut the hand in half, go down a little kind of edge there, cut the thumb in half and stuff like I did before, you can do that. And both are perfectly fine. But once you've done that, all you got to do is move the UVs, however you've done them, over to your UV group for your hands, for your body. And then that's it. Now it's time for actually us. We didn't look at how the ears. Sorry, so apologies. I skipped over the ears a little bit there. So my ears. I've got to have a look at how my ears are dealing with this geometry. Now they're not dealing so good because again the ears in this character are quite stuck out, quite big and quite graphical. So they're quite an important little bit. So what I'm going to do is actually cut these off the UV. Because again, what we've got here as well, which is quite something to think about, is we've got a solid shape, but there's no cut inside here. So again, if you just think of this ear as a solo piece, this here is a solo piece here. If we try and unfold this, there's no edges for this to kind of unfold and relax. So it's probably best that we cut them off thinking about it. So what I'm going to do is just cut the ear at the base of the ear when it connects to the head. I'll do that on both sides. If I turn this on, it should. Yep. I'm going to cut those off. Now this should actually allow my head to unfold a little bit nicer again. There we go. See that? Obvious relaxation there. Now here, this is where our problem-solving brain needs to kind of come into play. We've kind of already just done it. I've done the same kind of thing with this because by leaving this little tab on connected to the front of the finger, there we go. By leaving this little tab connected to the top of the finger but not connected to the other edges, it allows this to fold out and not be attached to the sides or the back and only be attached to the top, allowing it to unfold. We've got the same kind of thinking for the ear. Now, because I've kind of made a pig's ear of it, because I've kind of gone about this the wrong way and done this before, like I should have done this before, this might be a bit more, not difficult, just a bit weirder. I've got to do it in the 3D view. But I've got to think about the same thing. I've got to think about the same kind of information. I want my front of my ear to be undistorted, and I want the sides of the ears to be undistorted as much as I can. So what I'm going to do is not do anything on the front of the ear, but I'm going to, from this corner, this upper back edge of the ear, I'm going to bring this round. I'm going to bring this round, cut those. So this face is going to fold out away from this face, but then we've still got some distortion on the corners of the ear here. So I'm going to cut these here. So that what's going to happen is these 6 faces here can fold out. These 4 faces here can fold out. These 6 faces here, or these 8 faces, sorry, can fold out. And this back face can fold out. So if I now go in there and unfold, there we go. That's what I want to see. So we've got the front of the ear, the top and the bottom of the ear. This is the side of the ear there, and then we've got the back of the ear. So this is more like what I want. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So it's simple, it's just a bit weird. From there to there, from there to there, and then from there to there. Oops, I'll do that. There to there, then from there to there. Make sure I've got the right edges selected, which I have. Cut and unfold. Boom, there we go. So then I can move those somewhere. Now, if we were doing like a standard human character with no real kind of crazy features, the ears might not need to do that. We might leave the ears as part of the actual thing. Or even, we might even end up, because of like production needs, we might actually get rid of the ears if we're never going to see them. But no, that would be then, once I've done my hands, that would then be the finished version of the body. And the next thing would be is to bring in the eyes, bring in some eyelashes, some eyelids, some teeth, which are all very simple, and then start doing the clothes. We're all going to do that in later sessions. Good, cool.